Great, lovely to chat to you.
Great, thank you.
Everybody knows that startups are a heady mixture of pleasure and pain, success and sometimes failure. At the heart of all startups is a challenge, often followed by another challenge and another challenge. And getting over those is what makes a successful startup. We talked to two startups who've done just that with the help of Cisco Investments. I'm joined by Ed from AdBrain and Steve from MammothDB here at CiscoLive. Gentlemen, thanks very much for giving your time. I want to talk to you today about the challenges of being a startup and overcoming them. I think it's a subject that a lot of people are fascinated by, whether they're in a startup business or they're considering it themselves. Perhaps just to set us off, if you could just give us a little bit of background on your company and perhaps take us back to the early days and talk about where we came from.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. So AdBrain's in the business of solving customer identity, so basically linking together different IDs around a customer. When we started, we identified that challenge that we wanted to solve, but we couldn't really apply it in the way we do today because the market wasn't ready yet. So the way we started off was more on the advertising side and helping to sell ads that used our core technology to improve cross-device messaging and personalization. You fast forward now 3-4 years, and now all we do is sell that data as opposed to selling the ads. There's been quite an evolution in our business model over that time.
And what about from MammothDB's perspective?
MammothDB, we're doing predictive analytics for two main areas, transportation and manufacturing. So in transportation and logistics, it's things like route optimization, pricing prediction, cargo capacity optimization, and in manufacturing, it's a lot of predictive maintenance. The early days, it was quite different. It was a big data analytics database. Turns out that about 500 of them popped up in the last 3 years. And they all open sourced, and it's completely overfunded, and there is no more market really in just a database. Like nobody buys a database anymore. So that was quite a journey, because when we started, that was new. There was 2-3 new databases, and as time went, it just got massively overfunded, hyped, Gartner waves, this and that. And now it's a whole new market, so you have to go into really specific solutions verticals.
Just to give a sense of sort of context, what size of company are you?
We're 27 people.
And yourselves?
So we're about 35-40 people.
Right. It's one of those terms of startup can mean 200 or 500 from what I've been seeing.
Or 300.
So is there any fundamental sort of challenges that you can think about in the early stage of the business that really defined it? You spoke to some just then, but is there any kind of pivot point when that's it, that's now our business?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's all about getting product market fit at the start of it and really trying to get that balance of building the technology that people really need but don't yet kind of have, and finding riding that wave. So we went through a lot of iteration around our products, and really it's probably taken us the best part of 2-3 years to start to actually really hit that product market fit at an aggressive rate that we're now running at.
That seems like quite a lot of time for some people externally, I think perhaps, but you're absolutely right. I mean, sometimes you're ahead of the market and you need to catch up with it, or then the market needs to catch up with your ideas. What about from Mammoth's point of view? You'd highlighted that the market felt perhaps congested and you needed to look elsewhere.
Well, yeah, there's many things. One, he stole my... Everyone says product market fit, but it's true, right? But one of the challenges in enterprise is, Steve Blank talks about going out and trying different things, pivoting, getting product market fit. That works, but when you're an enterprise building like a database or something like that, a new feature could take a month or 2 months. So it isn't so easy to just try something, go, oh yeah, that didn't work, because you just wasted a zillion man hours on it and everything. So yeah, that's a challenge, I think, for startups wanting to do enterprise and specific. You gotta have patience. Another huge challenge for us was, the saturation of the big data market. Another one is big data never came. Like everyone says, yeah, big data, IoT, it's everywhere, but it's not. Very few companies actually have big data. So being really that early and then going, oh gosh, now I got to scale for little data. Because there's so many things.
There's that great expression, life is lived forward and understood backwards. And I think sometimes the startup story is often in the book. It always feels so easy and logical and all the rest of it. But actually when you're in the trenches, it's often not the case.
Yeah, and reading the books, right? Like Steve Blank, Stanford Entrepreneurship, it sounds so clear, but when you're doing it, and it's enterprise, and businesses are also slow enterprise business. 1 year sales cycle, try pivoting and getting the feedback faster.
Both of your businesses have taken investment from Cisco Investments. What are the challenges that you've faced recently, and how has the Cisco Investment network helped you with those?
Yeah, for sure. I think in our space it's about broadening outside of just the marketing and advertising ecosystem, and Cisco have been really good at helping us to understand how our technology could be applied in a broader sense at the level that Cisco is operating at, which is just a massive difference from the type of customers that we're working with on a day-to-day basis at the moment.
And what about your own experience?
For us, when you're an enterprise and you're a startup, nobody trusts you. So it sounds strange maybe, but Cisco actually brings almost like a badge of trust. Like, okay, if Cisco invested and Cisco likes you and uses you, it must be a pretty solid product. And that, I think, helps a lot. Like, if DHL is going to just use a product from some no-name company, or is it a product that Cisco invested in and it kind of puts a seal of approval? So that's a cool benefit.
Often, sort of the word startup can appear sort of quite a sexy term, and it sounds like all you're doing all day, traveling around the world, and investment and all the rest of it. And sometimes it can seem a little bit easy. There's that great Ben Horowitz quote: "As a startup CEO, I slept like a baby. I woke up every 2 hours crying." Always reminds me, of course, there's a very strong personal story to startups. Ed, from your own point of view, I mean, what's life like in a startup?
It's hard. It's really hard. I mean, you have to work really hard and aggressively because you're fighting for survival every day. Fundamentally, you're trying to basically try and get a business to kind of work, which means getting product market fit, getting the right team in place, ensuring that your marketing, everything's kind of all coming together and kind of working and firing. And to do that when you're a small team, when you're first starting out and you maybe like 5 of you kind of huddled together, is really difficult. So it's really important you're bringing on partners that you can kind of trust and work with to help set you up to basically solve that problem as best you can. But yeah, it's if anyone's kind of watching in Silicon Valley and thinking of just sitting back in some friends' apartments and it's all easy, that's not the reality. It's hard.
Was it is it what you expected when you set up the business a few years back? Did it turn out the way you expected, or is it better or worse, harder?
It's far tougher, right? Like, it's almost like schizophrenia or manic depressiveness, bipolar, whatever the new word is, where you think you make a sale or whatever and you're really high, and then something happens the next day and you're just like, oh God. It's like, how do I get through this one? So it's, I don't know, a lot of up and down stress. I feel,
that roller coaster of emotions is huge. Of just kind of
endlessly, right? An endless roller coaster of emotions.
People talk about often, companies celebrate success, but being able to kind of accept sometimes elements of failure and as a team as well is quite fundamental. How important is team to you in a startup?
I mean, team's everything. When you're small, you have to be working together really effectively, and I think coming together to celebrate those successes, but also not allowing egos and kind of human dynamics to blindside you from what maybe data is coming back from the market as to how stuff's working, and accepting when something isn't working and changing it and moving on rapidly, because you haven't got time to go for a year-long change cycle. You've got like a day or a week or something, to really kind of make an action on it.
Someone told me the expression, "a strong opinion is loosely held," works quite well when running a startup. You can feel fundamental about something, but if the data tells you otherwise, you perhaps have to switch. What's your own experience?
I think we need to start elevating culture and team to the importance of profit. I mean, without, when times are down, or you need your team to pull you up, right? Which is a lot harder than just doing nothing or saying, not my problem. You have to literally pull other people up when a team member's down. And I just found that if we're misaligned, it just destroys value. We spend a lot of time and energy in the wrong direction. We're not, when you're this small, we have to be aligned. And so, team is, A, you should have one, like at least 2 or 3. And then B, try not to, be misaligned all the time, and work with people that are culturally sort of a good fit. It makes or breaks a company.
As we said before, both your businesses have taken investment from Cisco Investments. And I want to sort of cast your mind back to that time when you were looking for investment. It's never just about the money, it's often about the partnership. But from your own point of view, from MammothDB's perspective, what was it that was kind of key deciding factors when looking at a partner and then eventually choosing Cisco?
We're maybe a little different because we're based in Central Eastern Europe, where the VC market is very different than the United States. Just think the United States 15 years ago. So for us, a lot of the VCs aren't as active as they might be, don't have as good a network as they are in Silicon Valley. So for us, what we're looking for in a strategic investor was network, access to either deal flow or ideas or divisions or introductions, things like that. That's because a lot of the VCs you think should be giving you that, but they don't. Where Cisco Investments has so many divisions in and of itself, you can get deal flow right there, as well as all their partners, and yeah, that's a really nice thing with Cisco.
And from your point of view, Ed?
Yeah, I think for us it's about helping to broaden our horizons in terms of how we were looking at how we could apply the data and open up new markets and new opportunities on the sales side for sure.
We talked a bit about some of the challenges and overcoming them, and of course there's plenty more to come. I look forward to coming back next year and seeing the progress you guys have made, and perhaps a few more grey hairs.
Exactly.
Well, you just never know, do you? And trying to sort of predict the future is very, very tough. But the one question I had that I want both of you to answer is, if you could do it all over again, would you do the same, or would you do something different?
Definitely, there's a lot of learnings along the way. I think huge amount in pretty much every area across the business. There's stuff that I would personally do differently, and I think as a company we would do differently as well if we had the power of retrospect. But that's what makes startup fun. Is like it's hard and it's stressful, and there's a lot of learning, but you do learn from it and you grow exponentially faster, I feel, than doing other kind of jobs. And
what about your own point of view?
Heaps, right? Like I said, hindsight's 20/20. But like one of the, it sounds weird, but I think we scaled up too much in the beginning. So you think you're going to have product market fit, and you overhire, whether it's in operations and sales and enterprise, whatever. And that was our fault. And I would definitely do that differently, and I'd stay leaner. And one cool thing about Cisco is they don't pressure you at all. Like a lot of VCs are like grow, scale up fast, blah, blah, blah. Cisco hasn't done that. They just leave us alone. So it was just our fault. I can't even blame it. Because you get the money and you're like, oh, I got to spend it. That's what you do. But yeah, I think slower growth is okay to get the right fit and then turn on the tab.
It's all about the timing. I think timing is so important when you're building a business, and figuring out when you put your foot on the gas and when you don't.
And as you highlighted, I think people often criticize the kind of VC relationship because they feel there's an additional pressure on them and to accelerate, and perhaps, and as you highlighted, when that isn't there, or at least if the pressure is your own pressure, it's a different type of challenge, but at least it comes internally rather than externally.
Yeah, exactly. And it creates, you're right, and if it's not internally, then it can become an adversarial relationship as well, which is not nice. Because as a startup, you don't want these adversarial relationships because your VC is almost like your team. So if you have that, then you spend too much energy on it, and so it's an important thing that I think we underestimate when getting funding. You can waste so much time otherwise on it.
If you both had one tip, I guess sort of looking back to early stage in the business, if you could go back and tell yourself this one thing, what would it be, Ian?
Good question. One thing. I think I would basically. For me, one thing I would probably tell someone if they're kind of in that same situation would be to gather as much information as you can from your peers and your network, and get as much help as you can to kind of build stuff. Don't kind of harbor and hold challenges that you're facing internally. You could go and seek advice either from your investors or from your other peers and networks that can help kind of figure out how to break through these kind of dead ball situations which you come across daily.
And that can feel counterintuitive, right? When you've got a great idea, it's often tempting to keep it close to your chest, but sharing a little bit of that tends to lessen the load. What about yourself? What one thing would you go back and tell your slightly younger self?
Yeah, I'd harken back to what I touched upon about overscaling, because a lot of these things you can't predict. I couldn't have predicted there'd be 500 databases, that everybody would open source, that XYZ. But because the market is moving much faster, I think, now, and the pace of change is accelerating, it's more important to make absolutely sure you've got the product market fit nailed before you scale. Yeah. So I would say be more patient, grow slower, because the market is crazy. So you got to spend a lot of time playing around with the market, then grow. And I know that sounds easy, but you end up paying people because you think you've got it, and then you just pay people to sit around and have meetings, right?
I think the one lesson that I've learned from this is, as exciting as both your startups are, what I really need is a time machine.
Yeah, exactly.
Gentlemen, thanks so much indeed. We've really appreciated having you on. Cheers. Thanks very much indeed. Cheers. Thank you.